This is the Work University Podcast, Episode 40. This is Work University, and I'm Annalisa Felix. This is where I interview people from various employment backgrounds and get the inside scoop on what their job is really like. If you're just getting into the workforce, or if you're curious about getting into something new, listen up. Hello, today I'd like to introduce Nicole Rhone, and Nicole is going to be talking about what it's like to be a human resources manager. Hello, Nicole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for taking time to talk with me today.
No problem. I'm so excited to be here. I love HR, and I could talk about it all day, so thanks for having me.
Well, good, because guess what? The first question is, what does it mean to be a human resources manager, your day-to-day, for somebody who maybe doesn't know anything about the role?
Yes, so honestly, it means to be a jack or Jill of all trades, because in an HR manager role, there's not just one specific thing that you do, which is actually why I've loved it so much, because every day is different. It's really a matter of handling employee relations and managing staffing and handling promotions, just a whole sort of array of different tasks that you have throughout the day. And so sometimes you're switching back and forth from being more strategic to more tactical, and you're speaking with people, you are attending meetings. There's just a lot of different things that you do on a day-to-day basis, which is why most people love HR.
Now, if you're doing all of these roles and wearing all of these hats, and there's only one HR person or one HR department, you could have anywhere from 10 people in a company to hundreds. How do you pull that off?
Well, luckily, I've had the experience of being the only person in the HR department and managing up to about 60 different people. Mm-hmm. And I've also been on the other side of the fence where I am one of the people in the HR department servicing up to 1,300 different people. And so in either role, it really does come down to prioritizing and figuring out which fire you have to put out first, for lack of better words, and putting your attention there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're kind of making sure the company runs smoothly and making sure that the employees are taken care of on a certain level. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate, and I love that you say that, because it is a fine balance between being both a company advocate and an employee advocate, and learning how to really create that balance.
So is HR something that you learn about in college? Does it have its own degree, or is it something that you just kind of fall into? Or how do we know about human resources as a company and that that's a job to get into?
Yeah, so it's actually a little bit of both. I will say that most of the people that I've worked with kind of fell into HR, and that was true for me as well. I started out in doing administrative work and just happened to be helping out with some HR tasks, like creating offer letters and setting up different assessments for future employees that were applying. And so after getting exposed to that, I was like, wow, I really want to learn more about this HR stuff, because it feels like it's the psychology of business. And me being a people person, of course, like, let me check it out. And so, yes, there are degrees specifically for human resources. I have attained my bachelor's in business with a concentration in human resources, as well as a master's in human resource management. And so there are, of course, variations of that. There are different certificates that you can get as well. But I would say to anyone who is looking to get into the HR space to absolutely at least get that bachelor's in business with a concentration in HR, or you can go for the full-fledged HR degree in the undergrad.
Okay, you named a lot of different roles that you have to be aware of, posting jobs, employee relations, maybe even investigations. Can you get in deeper in some of those topics that maybe we don't realize as employees really go on behind the scenes for human resources in a business?
Absolutely. I will start with the employee relations piece. And you hit the nail on the head when you said investigations, because that is a huge part of the employee relations space. And often it's what takes the most time, because you are, sitting and speaking with people. So, for example, if someone comes to you and says that they are having trouble with their manager, you have to take the time to understand what the problem is, kind of what's been talked about, and help to come up with some sort of a resolution, but not just with the employee, but also with the manager. So it entails you asking lots of questions, getting really involved, and having really great communication. And so behind the scenes, although you may not be able to see exactly what's going on, you're in the midst of it. And you're helping to propel the company as you're doing that, because when you work in an environment that there are a multitude of issues and they go unresolved, that leads to high turnover. It leads to frustration on employee satisfaction. So all of those different things. But relations, is definitely one of those areas that has you wear multiple hats as well, if that makes sense.
So if you like people, or maybe want to get into, more of the human aspects, it sounds like human resources is something to get into. Why do you like it?
Well, I really like it because just that, I love people. I love the human interaction. And I really enjoy being able to help people. I am a helper at my core, and I got into it because I realized that I could help people figure out what their next best career would be, or figure out how to be successful in their current role, and help companies attract and retain employees that really wanted to be there. So if you love people, then yes, absolutely, I would say get into HR.
What do you not like about it?
Oh, good question. What I don't like about it, honestly, now this might be a little trivial, but I don't like the paperwork. I don't like the paperwork.
That's okay. And you know what? That's a good piece of it. Can you please talk about that more?
Yeah. And so with that, while you're talking to folks and helping people across the board, there's still a level of technical work with the paperwork. You have to be documenting things. You have to follow policy. It's creating policy, amending different policies. It's working on different job descriptions, posting those job descriptions, putting performance improvement plans together, which can only be done via paper, right? Well, paperwork, electronically now, of course, but there are so many different aspects that come with it. And then filing. So even if, someone's hired, there's the new hire paperwork. Somebody has to do that. And then you have to actually put the files away and organizing them. So there's a lot of back-end paperwork that goes into the HR role that most of the HR folks that I know don't like the paperwork either.
How much thought and money goes into employee turnover, meaning when somebody gets hired and somebody gets fired? Like, from the outside looking in, we might think, oh, well, I'm just going to, leave this company. Whereas behind the scenes, there's a dollar sign attached to it. There's time, there's paperwork, and all of that maybe. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. And so that's what I call the employee life cycle, right? From hire to fire.
Yes.
And on the front end, there is so much time and energy that goes into the onboarding, because as you're onboarded as a new employee, this is your first experience with the company. So it has to be spectacular. So from a timing perspective, setting up your training, who you need to meet with, why you need to meet with them, getting your new hire orientation and package together so that you understand what the company policies are, that you get the different benefits, those different pieces. And so there's a lot of time and money that's put into the beginning part, of course, from the onboarding. And even throughout the employment relationship, there are one-on-one meetings, there is employee engagement, and spending money and time there to make sure that people are actually enjoying what they're doing and that it's a good fit for both the company and the employee. And then on the opposite side, when employees are leaving, there's a lot of time and energy and money that goes into that. So posting the job, reaching out to business partners to let them know that this person is no longer going to be with the organization, and rerouting that workload to someone else on the team. And then from the interviewing, right? So getting other people involved, different stakeholders that want to take part in the interview to make sure that there's a good fit. And typically positions stay open if they're not really being filled internally, I say on an average of 30 to 45 days. And so that amount of time is being spent with someone else doing that workload of the associate that has left. And you're paying for, the ad being posted on different sites at the same time. So there's a lot of time and money that goes into the employee life cycle. So that was a great question. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Going down another avenue, there is performance and employee development and goals and all of these other things that you need to maybe keep your finger on the pulse of. And there could be, like you said, 60 employees happening. But, you're doing such a great job for a company that is maybe under-recognized, because if you look at the stigma that is sometimes put on human resources, tell me a little bit about what you've experienced with that.
Oh, my gosh. I'm laughing because one of the reactions that I've always gotten, no matter the company that I've worked for, is that, wow, you're a different kind of HR lady. And I'm like, what does that mean? Right? And it's because human resources has traditionally been known as like the principal's office. Like you don't get called to HR or talk to HR unless there's a problem. And one of the things that I've prided myself in as an HR professional over the last decade plus is really changing that narrative and building relationships with employees, because HR really is a resource, literally. So being there to be able to help employees figure out how to have a conversation with their manager about wanting a pay raise that's off cycle, or helping a manager figure out how to have an uncomfortable conversation with an employee who's underperforming. And so really I have been so fortunate to change a lot of the relationships in the different organizations that I've worked in between human resources and the employees. So people typically come to my office just to say hello and see how I'm doing, right? Like, I haven't seen you in a while. I look forward to our one-on-one.
Yeah.
Nobody ever really says that because nobody wants to come to HR. So I've made it a safe space for people to come. Right.
And you hit something there. Nobody comes to HR to say, great job, HR. They only really stop by when there are problems. So tell me how much customer service plays into this role.
Oh, my gosh, 10,000%?
Oh.
10,000% customer service? Because your customers as an HR person are the employees. And so being able to help understand what their needs are and communicate to them how you can help them without making them feel as though they are in trouble is huge. And really being able to partner not just at the employee and manager level, but even at the executive level to help them understand how partnering with HR early and often really does help the bottom line, from turnover to increasing engagement, all the different things that make a difference throughout the employee life cycle. Does that answer your question?
It does. And maybe one thing you could define for us, for listeners, is what does the, quote, air quotes, bottom line mean? Because that's a term that they're going to be hearing probably once a day.
The bottom line is the bottom line. It's the money, right? Like how the company makes money, what the profit is after paying for all of the employees, the business expenses. The bottom line is the profit. We're talking about the dollars.
Yes, because at the end of the day, that's why we're all here, if we really think about it. So I think that maybe if there was something that you would want people to know, and talking about the stigma, what would you want people to know about human resources that it isn't like that?
Yeah, that's a really great question because, again, the stigma with HR is that it's like the principal's office.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want everybody to know is that, yes, that's a part of it, and it's not the fun part. Nobody ever wakes up and says, hey, I want to go get into HR because I want to fire people or because I want to, just make all these rules and, be the policy guard. That's
Mm-hmm.
not it. Most people get into HR because they want to help people. And I hope that folks shift their mindset to HR is more of a helping space than it is a principal's office. And it's such a fun place to work. Not only do you get all the behind-the-scenes information on typically what's going on with the company. Of course, confidentially, you can't share any of that, so you have to have a high degree of integrity.
Right.
But you also get to take part in one of the best parts of the organization, which is, and I call it the heart and soul of the organization because we keep it going, right? We're helping to bring people in. We're having conversations about benefits. We're talking to people about how to access leaves. We are helping people set goals and keeping them on track. We're helping to grow and develop essentially the entire organization. So, again, I firmly believe that HR is the heart and soul of an organization and not the principal's office.
Well, I can feel your passion because I heard you slap your knee while you were saying that, so I can feel it. And, there are so many things that maybe employees should reconsider about human resources because they have the resources. They have the goodies. If you look for them, they have employee assistance programs. They have, what are the different benefits that our insurance provider carries for you that are free. All of these nice things that are tools that you can use for free, learning, development, all of these different things. So if there's anything that you can learn from this is lean into your HR person, get to know what is available because some of these resources go untapped, wouldn't you say?
I would, and that's such a good point, especially from employee development. I want to pause there for a second because most organizations have things in place to help you continue to develop your career because we want to keep you, right? And those things are invaluable. Like literally the most recent organizations I was working for had an entire learning and development system where you would get access to these quarterly courses. On top of that, there were a lot of different lunch and learns. There was just so much information, learning how to negotiate, not only for, your job purposes, but if you were to leave the organization. So having those resources at your fingertips and free of charge to you is priceless. And another one that you mentioned as well, and I call myself like the EAP queen because I'm always telling people about it. The EAP is the Employee Assistance Program, and it is 100% free and 100% confidential to all employees and the people that are in their households. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people tend to think that EAP is just for crisis management. And, of course, yes, that piece is there, but it's so much more. Most EAPs have certain discount plans that come with them. There are like vacation planning options, financial resources, like physical health resources, all free to you. And so I'm always pushing EAP to everybody that I know.
Okay, last question. What advice do you give to anybody who wants to know more about human resources or maybe wants to follow down this path and find out more?
Yeah, my best advice would be to do a little bit of research, right? If you like people, take a look at what the degrees offer and start looking at some of the different job descriptions because there are a variety, right? There's HR generalist, there's HR business partner, there's HR coordinator, and depending on where you are, in your career and what you're looking for, I would say start there. And then also reach out to people that you know are in HR. Like, I'm constantly having conversations with people who are interested in learning more. So use me as a resource. Use other friends and family that you know as well, because nobody's going to tell you the truth about HR like another HR professional.
That basically does it for my questions. I appreciate you taking your time. I want to respect your time too, but we shared a lot of information. So, if you're a student wanting to get into human resources, just talk to anybody. You can probably, swing a bat and hit, five HR people outside. They're all over the place, or they know of somebody. And informational interviews, are the way to go. Just ask somebody, hey, can I ask you 5 minutes about your position? What do you like? What do you not like? And then just let it go from there. So, Nicole, you've done that for me. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
No problem. I'm so glad to be here. And I want to tell you one other place. So SHRM, right? The Society of Human Resource Management. That's a really good place that folks can gather additional information, and it caters to especially folks who are looking to get into HR.
Thanks for listening. If there's a job you want to learn about, it may already be in the Work University podcast library. Go to workuniversity.org to check and see. Or send me an email and let me know what jobs you want to learn about.